Okay, in this video I just wanted to talk about how you can improve your kind of productivity and workflow by using keyboard shortcut covers. And this is something that I really like to use, and I've kind of got them for kind of various different programs. And what you'll find is you can get them for most creative tools like Photoshop, After Effects, DaVinci Resolve, and I'll leave a link in the description where you can find the particular ones that I'm using in this video. There are lots of different types, and they're all sort of do roughly the same thing. Some of the quality kind of varies between different ones. So essentially what they allow you to do, it's obviously really basic. All you've got here is kind of like just a rubber keyboard cover, and all you do is just place it over the top of your keyboard. It takes a couple of seconds to just drop it on top of there, and then that's it. You've got all the shortcuts for whichever program it is that you want to use. And at first it might look really intimidating, but just think of them as a quick reference, and we'll quickly run through what kind of some of the colours mean in this video. And the idea is that you sort of get to the point where you remember some of the most used shortcuts and you don't really need to use this so much. So it's just kind of like a bit of a set of training wheels to get you started, and then you'll become quite proficient in certain things. And it really, for me, as somebody that switches between programs quite a lot, I just find it quite useful as just a quick sort of visual guide of, what I'm doing really. And as I say, I've got these for Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects and Premiere, and I still use them from time to time, even after kind of 20 odd years of working in those programs. And the real benefit of these is just that, they're cheap and quick to apply, and you can just remove them easily. It's just a very quick kind of reference. Another good thing about them is because they're a full rubber cover, they actually give your keyboard some protection. So if you're to spill something on your keyboard, it's actually just going to obviously end up on the cover and not into the keys. And these are just really quick and easy to clean. You can just wipe them off. They're also nice and light, so you don't really want to be crunching them up when you're kind of storing them, but to be honest, they don't really crease that much. You could kind of roll it up or just lay it flat to kind of store them, and they don't take up any space. The only cons I would kind of say with them is that when you put them on, you'll notice that depending on the keyboard you've got, that they don't sort of feel quite as nice as the keyboard keys. But the idea is you're really only just using them for quick one-off shortcuts. You're not doing kind of like typing on the keyboard whilst you're using them. And the other slight drawback is that they're obviously designed for specific keyboard sizes. So I use a MacBook Pro, but I like to use a external mouse and keyboard and everything, and just have my laptop up on a stand with a second screen. But I can't actually take this off and put it onto my laptop because my laptop's got a ever so slightly different keyboard with higher top keys. So it's got things like the kind of Touch ID up in the corner, and it's just a ever so slightly different layout of a keyboard, so I can't transfer it from one to another. I mean, for me that's not really a problem, because when I'm sort of out doing things, I don't find I really need this. I do the bulk of my editing from this keyboard, so it's fine for me, but it's something to consider if you use different types of keyboards. So what we'll do is just run through some of the bits on here, and we're just using the Premiere one as an example. You don't need to use Premiere to sort of understand how this kind of works. They're mostly all revolve around a colour key that works in a kind of similar way. The first one we'll go through, so the light green on there, these are essentially the tools. I'll overlay some of this, so you can switch between things like you've got the hand tool, you can switch to selection tool, razor, those types of things, the kind of stuff you use all the time, switching between when you're doing your edits. The grey buttons are essentially things that you would use to switch between the kind of panels. So you can see you've got things like you've actually got all the cameras are at the bottom. So that means if you were to press this, you'd switch between your cameras. Obviously, if you're doing multicam, and where you've got things where they're kind of highlighted red. That generally just means you need to hold down the shift key and do it. So holding down the shift key and pressing this one, for example, would take you to the timeline panel, program monitor, effects control. Again, it's just really useful, because you're not having to constantly move the mouse around. You can just really quickly switch between things and kind of do it that way. The blue buttons on there are mostly for sort of timeline controls. So you've got things like add in markers, stop, shuffle rewind, shuffle fast forward, and again you can see we've got these red options on there. So essentially shuffle rewind will go back fairly quickly, or shuffle forward fairly quickly, hit shift and do it, and then it will do it in a kind of slow motion jump. And then we've got things like mark in and out, but if you hit shift, go to in, go to out point. Things like zooming in and out of the timeline. Again, it's all fairly kind of self-explanatory. You just need to break it down and work it out in your head, like what each bit kind of does. And for a lot of people, you know, you maybe only will use 10% of the shortcuts. And like I say, once you've got those in your head, you're kind of good to go, really. The yellow buttons on here are mostly kind of clip based. So, you know, if you've got a clip selected, you can do things like mark selections, extract. You can do things like change your clip volume. You can ripple through. So, and you've got things like here, so like the next column and timeline. It's generally things that are related to you being selected on a clip. So like for audio gain, for example, if you were to just press that and, you know, you weren't actually having a clip selected, it's not actually going to do anything. So once you click on a clip and then press audio gain, you'll find that it actually brings up an option for that. And that really is just kind of a quick overview of it, you know. I mean, as I say, for me, I've found these really helpful throughout my time kind of working in certainly the Adobe Suite and sort of various other tools. They're really useful, and as I say, you know, you can pick these up online for they're never any more than kind of $20, so maybe between £10 and £15 you can usually pick them up for. As I say, some of them vary in quality. The print on some of them is quite poor, so see if you can find one that has like quite nice kind of print on it. And you know, I've had these ones for quite a long time and they're still in pretty nice condition. I think I've only ever replaced one of these, and the rest of them are kind of, you know, they still look pretty nice. So if you do spend ever so slightly more, you usually get like a bit nicer kind of finish on them. But again, they're not particularly expensive, and they're honestly, you know, for me, they've saved me hours of, you know, time googling things, looking for shortcuts, and obviously the shortcuts themselves are saving you time. So it's just you know, it's a good investment in your time really for not very much money. So yeah, I'd highly kind of recommend them. If you've got any questions about them, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, then please subscribe.